All right, hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm Kendra Larson. I run the Archer Gallery and Clark Art Talks here at Clark. We are super lucky to have Nan Curtis as our guest artist today. Nan Curtis received her MFA from the University of Cincinnati and BA from the College of Wooster. Curtis's practice is interdisciplinary, mining site, home, and personal narrative to reframe what can be considered mundane. Major exhibitions include Mira Costa College, San Diego, DiverseWorks, Houston, Tacoma Art Museum, ConsolidatedWorks, Seattle, Linfield College in Oregon, Portland Institute for Contemporary Art, PICA, the Leach Gallery, Williamson and Knight, 1430 Contemporary, the Nan Gallery, and Art Gym, all in Portland. Nan received the prestigious Bonnie Bronson Fellowship in 2011. She has attended residencies in Mira Costa College, OCAC, which is Oregon College of Arts and Crafts, and Caldera. Her work has been featured in Art Forum, Art Week, The Oregonian, Seattle Stranger, and the Portland Monthly. Her work is in the collections of the Portland Art Museum, Sarah Miller Miggs, Reed College, Joan and John, and the Joan and John Shipley collection. She was the director and curator of the Feldman Gallery at the Pacific Northwest College of Art and is currently faculty and the chair of studio arts.
Oh, wow, that is dated.
Kidding.
6 years ago.
6 years ago, she was the... but she'll tell you what she's doing now, which is very, very exciting. So if you have not done so already, please visit her exhibition downstairs. It's called The Other Side of Yesterday, and it's on view until May 6th in the Archer Gallery. How many of you have already gone to that? Okay, cool.
Nice.
How many of you smashed teacups? Yeah, okay, cool. If you haven't, go check it out. And I just want to say that I really I appreciate how Nan follows her inquiries and interests wherever they take her. In other words, I love seeing how her poetic heart feeds the content, and then the content feeds the form. I also wrote it. Curiosity and play are mainstays of her work. In teaching, as in her art, Nan approaches the sincere and sacred emotional moments in life with ambitious gestures that remind us of our connections and shared humanity. It is my honor to welcome Nan Curtis as our speaker today.
Kendra failed to mention that she was my student. That's kind of how that goes. That's how you get art shows, guys. Be nice to your students, okay? Because they become you eventually. So, hi, thanks for coming. I don't like lectures. I actually really find them awful. Actually, I don't go to too many, and usually when I do, I get disappointed. So that's not what this is, okay? This is a talk. You can raise your hand and ask a question. I'll leave enough time at the end, too, and I'm going to time myself because when it hits 25 minutes, I'm done. I'm done talking. Nobody wants to hear any artist talk longer than that anyway. Even if they tell you otherwise, they're lying. Okay, so, and then we can go into questions if you have some. She asked me if there was anything wrong with what she said here, and I was like, nah, it's fine, whatever. But I actually haven't been teaching since, I gave notice at my job in February of 2020. How about that? I said, I'm done teaching. I do work in the MFA program at PNCA, but I have a new career path, which I don't know if I want to start the lecture with it, but I guess I will. I'm going to dump this one on you all. I'm a death doula, and I help people die. And it's really, like, if you can, you should. It's been just absolutely a career change that has crushed my heart in the best way. This is very weird for me to be, not be able to see what I'm showing you. So I'm going to be, working the room, I guess. And I decided that I wasn't going to talk about the show downstairs because you guys have access to it and you can go down there. And if you have questions for me, I'm open. You can, write me, or I'm there every Tuesday for the next 3 weeks from 11 to 2 for Nosh with Nan. And your culinary program makes free soup for students and bread that looks like my sculpture. What the heck? And it's kind of come and go. You don't have to stay from 11 to 2. And then it's topic driven. So we'll do things like professional practices, and I find that my friends come and then you all come, and there's this really interesting generation of conversation that happens there. So come and find me for that too. Okay, I have to start now or else I won't be in my 25 minutes. So I decided to do a greatest hits lecture versus talking about that. And I graduated in college for my MFA in 91 in Ohio. I don't know if y'all been there, but it's definitely a place to leave. So that's what we did. A bunch of us left, and we came to Portland, Oregon, and we didn't come to stay, and none of us have left. So I have really built my art career in Portland and in the Pacific Northwest, and branched out up and down the border and the things. So this is kind of my proving ground. This is where it all happened. I came to Portland early 90s, and the big thing happening at that time was music, more than necessarily art. There were a couple of good galleries. Leach is still around, stuff like that. But I met a really interesting group of creative women who were into performance and music and stuff like that. And I had my studio, but I started hanging out with these crazy women, and we wanted to do performance, but there was no venue. So we decided to say that we were a band then. We're like, sure, we'll be a band. And we kind of lied our way onto stage. We didn't really know what we were doing, but we made our costumes and we performed like acted songs that were related to some kind of feminist idea of, I'm not even sure what. But I didn't ask you if I could say this or not, Kendra, but I'm going to. My band was called GFP fondly, but it was God's Favorite Pussy. And then we would fight around on stage about who was God's favorite pussy. That just gives you at least the tone of what we were doing. It was fun and funny, and it was in a spirit of ridiculousness. And we definitely were. Our highlight moment was we opened for Delight. That's Grooves in the Heart. We'd opened for Lady Miss Keir. That was good. But then we got kicked off stage. So here we are. We're doing Pat Benatar cover here. This is Love is a Battlefield. I'm sure you can see the connection between the Lady Godiva wigs. And I think I had on a wetsuit. Yeah, so all of us had different outfits on. This was our best song. This is Our Lips Are Sealed by the Go-Go's. I'm the drummer back there. So you can see we all change and grow up, and I still know these women. We hang out, actually. It's interesting. So that was kind of the beginning of maybe a performative side of me, but simultaneously I was making art as well, and mainly in alternative spaces, mainly because I can be a little bit of a brat, and so galleries like me until they don't, and so they'll hang on to me, and then they go like, she did it again. So there were a bunch of alternative spaces that I was able to hook up with, and this was Bay 78, not for sale. And the point of Bay 78 was that nothing was ever for sale, though. So sales was not ever what drove what happened in the gallery. So I was encouraged to make a lot of large-scale installations. My proposal was 5 shows over 5 months, and they took it. And then I had to kick ass and make a lot of art really fast. So this one is a periscope. When you look in one side, you see yourself, or you can't see yourself on the other side. There's this complex relationship where you're trying to catch yourself. It's like, I don't know. It was fun. This show was called The Most Important Opening in the World, and it was all the food that I eat on pedestals that I was sharing with people. So obviously the most important opening wasn't the art gallery, but rather my mouth or your mouth. This one was called Product of Our Society, and Kinko's used to be a thing that it was the only place we could get copies done, and we would go in, it was 24 hours, and we would go in at night and like sit and video, or Xerox our butts and stuff like this. So usually you had a friend that worked there, it was in a band or something, and so you could get free copies, kind of stuff. But I recreated my body based on all of its flaws. And then this one was I think it's called My Role Models, and I dressed as 7 different role models that I possibly could have become in my life. Now, I grew up in Kentucky in the world of debutantes. Is definitely not a debutante, but I could have been one, I guess. I don't know. So there was like the businesswoman or the welder or the artist or the stay-at-home mom and I dressed up as each one of these characters. If anyone has questions, you can interrupt me. NANCO is an interesting one. It's really not my best show, but it's the one that can't let go of me. So I guess in that way, it has lasting power. 1995, that's what year NANCO was. And it was at my gallery, who was getting frustrated that I wasn't making work to sell. And so I made work that was only meant to sell. And so by branding something with NANCO, it became art. And we are selling t-shirts downstairs, so feel free to buy a t-shirt and become part of my art project. But it was a product-based exhibition. And we had ashtrays and flashlights, t-shirts, and cups, and here's there you go, earplugs, pencils. They were a big seller, and they were, because it was a NANCO pencil, it was worth $10, not just 50 cents, which a pencil would be. So, it was upped in value because it was now art. Remember, this is 95. This feels sort of like a simple idea now. I think we're all a little more in tune to it. This was a fucking great show. I replicated all the people, maybe not all of them, all the artists whose work I love, and tried to the best of my ability to replicate it. So in the foreground is a Christo. To the right is a Mike Kelly, Louise Bourgeois, Robert Gober, Jeff Koons back there in the corner with the basketball. Let's see. And just a different view. Jackie Windsor, so the slide's kind of dark, but Robert Smithson, George Siegel. And the idea was that we put all of this work on pedestals and that somehow it elevates it to be better more than I am, or even that my work is, and I found that super frustrating. So I did a performance. This is a Jeff Koons. It's pretty accurate. If you've seen the Jeff Koons, it's good. And I went around and wedged the pedestals until the work fell off. And in some cases, it didn't fall off because the pieces were too heavy. And then the show that was left up was this scene of destruction. And really, I was trying to undermine the pedestal, not necessarily the art, but unfortunately, several times, whoops, the art got kind of messed up too. So, that was very fun. And the audience really got into it because it happened at the opening. And then all of a sudden, it kind of felt like I was at a monster truck rally or something. People were like, ooh, ooh. And they were standing on pedestals to get away from other things. And it was very, very fun. But that was a formative show for me. It talked to me a lot about I can make things. I'm good at making things. And that there was kind of rich content to what I could do. I don't know why. It still resonates. How's that? This was a piece. I don't remember what they're called. Spike balls, I think. And you throw them at the wall until they stick. The one at the bottom was too heavy to stick. It always just kept falling out. Staircase fort. This is very, I think, kind of the beginning of really shaping the kind of quality of the work that I make now. It's very centered on family, home, things that seem comfortable, maybe slightly sentimental. So the staircase fort, who had one? Come on, give it up. Who had a staircase fort? Really? Underneath the stairs? Oh, come on, see? And then you have the door. Yeah, you had. And then you filled it with things like, I don't even know, Legos or maybe cigarettes or something you weren't supposed to do. That was the gum in the door to keep it from locking on me, because I always had this kind of fear that like I would get stuck in the staircase fort. Carpet dog. This was based on the dimensions of my dog, Sally. And it's like 55 pieces of carpet that are the same all the way up. And slowly I've been giving them away and siphoning it off. I think I have about 4 left. I hired a student to cut that for me. That was really fun. That's when it's like the collaboration between me and the student. There was a lot of studio time in that. It was actually really hard work to cut carpet like that, but in kind of a sweet sentimentality. This one is called Soiled, and it is a baby crib mattress with a urine stain on it. And hopefully it kind of was like, oh, it's a little sad, but it's also real. That's kind of how I want you to feel about that. But that one resonates with me still to this day, too. Chair fort. Who didn't have the kitchen chair fort? Come on. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, forts. I mean, my kids were major fort makers. This begins a project that really continues in my life now. It's called The Rekindling. And what I would do is take people's collections that they've collected for years but done nothing with. And I got to check the time here. How long have I talked? Oh, shit, I forgot to turn it on. Damn it. But now I know, okay, I can see. I've been going for 12 minutes. So, all right. So you have these collections of things. Maybe all your concert tickets from every show you've ever seen. Maybe photo albums or I don't know what. And you probably never look at it again. You've got it. Maybe you build on it, maybe you don't. But in my case, it's my diaries. And I have them. I don't know why I had them. I wanted to get rid of them, but you can't throw those out. Like, I don't know. It was very complicated. So I put them inside a vise, clamped it shut, and welded it. And so it is just a piece now. It can't be read. It's a done deal. And it's sold to Reed College. Now it's in their museum, which is so disconcerting. I'm like, wow, could it come open? I don't really know. I hope not. I really, really hope not. Nobody wants to read that. All right, so this is the best piece I've ever made in my whole life. And it's downstairs in the show now. And it was after my mom passed. And she had purses, like 400 purses, gross. Half of them she'd never used, but the other ones were full of interesting things, like tobacco-covered candy, if anybody's had one of those downstairs, or, money, horse racing stuff. I found a diamond ring, and then I found this thing, and I was like, it's the wrapper from your cigarette wrapper, and I was just like, I mean, that more than anything I found, like, broke my heart. And so I found myself, I was like, oh, keep it, And then I got it framed, and then I called it my mom's cigarette wrapper. And then other people were like, oh, yeah. And I was like, see, it worked. Like, that's totally the communication I wanted to have. And so that's the only piece that I will never sell. Yes.
It was so totally my mom. There was a smoker, and it was double gum,
Cigarettes, oh yeah. Yep. Yep, that's exactly right. Before, when we opened the show, we didn't put a label on it that said tobacco-covered candy. And after the opening, it was all gone. And Kendra was like, Nan, we have to at least tell them what they're eating. And I think I saw some people were like, I'm not sure what that was. But yeah, it's not getting eaten as much anymore. But yes, totally. My history, Mom. Do you want a candy, Nan? Oh, I totally want a candy. Hold on, digging around in her purse. And of course, you want a Jolly Rancher, not a peppermint. No kid wants a peppermint, and that's what we got, peppermint. So this was a piece at Reed College in their CaseWorks program, curated by Stephanie Snyder. And it is these CaseWorks. Well, I don't know what that was. I think that's your computer. Someone's calling you. I don't know. But they're kind of human scale. I don't know if you've ever seen them. And I was like, to my husband, I'm like, we should move in. Let's move into them for a month, Stephanie was like, you're not moving into them for a month. So we figured out kind of a way that we could occupy them. And so these are photographs, full-scale photographs of my husband and I, who I collaborate with often. We've been collaborating for most of the time we've been together and even before then. And it's called The Space Between Us. And you can see now this interaction between, and I'll be honest with you because he's not here, but we were having a tough time right now. So it was really very much relevant to what was going on, where there's this kind of push-pull. He's not looking at me, I'm looking at him. We're kind of like, hello. And it was a perfect piece for us to work through kind of whatever we were going through at that point. This is another one of the collections where these are all my photo albums, which I never ever want my children to see. And so because I grew up in Kentucky, I mentioned that one to y'all. It's real different than growing up in Portland, Oregon. It's real different. So so I commissioned a woodworker to make a lac furniture piece, lac from IKEA, that line, and made it 1 inch too small, and I wedged them in, and the point is you can't get them back out. And so so really the piece is that, like it's not seeing what's inside them. But this sparked me opening it up to other people to give me their collections too. And so, that's what started happening. In this case, this woman gave me her mom's lace collection, and she specifically said, I don't want it back. Like, that's the point. And as a sculptor, logically, I would have stuffed something with it, right? And then I would have given her sculpture back, but she didn't want it back. So then I was like, all right. And I went through the collection. At the very bottom of her collection, it's like tatted lace from her grandmother and stuff like that. But there was a lace dress in there, and I put it on and it fit me. It was like kind of weird. And so I was like, maybe I should photograph myself. So I collaborated with a local photographer named Susan Soiber. And I went over to her studio, and she put me on a black screen. I put the dress on. She was like, oh, wow, that's weird. Yeah, that looks really good on you. And then she said, sit down, and she just started wrapping me with the lace. So that's me inside of this image there. And then the final print, so it's manifest as a photograph, but the final print is full scale. So it's like a 5x5 print. And at first, did you know there's a person in there? Could you tell? Yeah, it sort of, at first, once you figure it out, it's like, oh yeah, obviously. Here's another collection by Joan Shipley, had an incredible, 600 to 1,000 snow globes. And she just gave me about 100 and said, see if you can do something with this. So I made her a trophy. It has 26 of them in there, surprisingly. And they still have their water and everything. And while I was making it for her, she got really into him. She loved him. And she commissioned 2 more things and then died. I know. And so then it was like they became memorials, which was very intense. But it was cool. I felt like, in my mind, I wanted to call it a trophy. By the end, I was like, it's totally Joan's trophy. I have this on your campus too. These, I don't know if you all have seen it outside, but the little flags, they're really hard to read, but if you get above it and stand on the wall, it says breathe. And they fly in the wind. But I started doing them in my residency at Mira Costa College down in San Diego. And they were so fun and pretty, and they're just easy and nice. Then a lot of that's not really like me. So I was like, maybe I'll make some nice art. This was another, anybody from around there? There is a thing down there called Dead Man's Foot. It's a fungus, like a mushroom, I guess. And they look like a root ball, but when you pick them up, they're full of spores and they just explode in your hands. And I was like, oh, holy Hannah. So I found one and I threw it on the ground and backed out of the image. So that is spores. This thing was huge. It was really very cool, but weird. This is Grace. Grace bought this piece for me for the Portland Art Museum. Something I super appreciate in particular about this is, it's called Family Tree Piles. And it is, every time it gets installed, it's done a little differently. And it's non-archival. 2 things which you would imagine, like, oh, museums can't do that, but Grace did. She took that risk, and she did that. And so it goes up and down on display at the Portland Art Museum. This is feeling sculpture. It's just a big sculpture to be hugged. It's made out of moleskin. I want to share with you guys. At first I was wondering, but of course I'm going to. So I'm an adult child, and I carry a little security blanket with me everywhere that's a little piece of chamois. And then when I retire my chamois, I make art out of them. And that's what the last piece was. I don't know if you know that, Grace, but yeah. So I use chamois a lot in my studio because I'm a welder and it shines metal, it does all kinds of really nice things. But this is moleskin fabric that feels much like the chamois. So it's a synthetic, but it's really nice. So you kind of can't help but to go up and like hug it and touch it, which is perfectly weird and appropriate. There's a Nanco shirt. This was a show that I did. Okay, we're good time. Satora projects, and I clearly now can say that I'm not going to say obsessed, but I am attracted to rocks, right? We know this now. It's repeated motif in my work. When I was young, I was driving through Arkansas, and they were selling chunks of glass, colored glass, on the side of the road because it's a smelting state, which is where a lot of your glass comes from. And I bought a chunk of red glass for like $5, and it's cool, and I carried it with me everywhere until one day I got rid of it, and I have regretted that day ever since. And I have looked for that rock, and I've gone after that rock, and that rock does not exist. So I did a residency, and I made these rocks out of glass, which was a wild experience because I'm not a glass artist, and that is a single material. It's like ceramic. You all know this, Lisa. You know, it's like I'm a ceramicist. Glass artists are like that. I'm a sculptor. I work with many materials. I don't typically work with glass or clay, but because I think I'm afraid, honestly. But that was a really fun experience. So what is this called? Fourth dimensional nodes. I had this idea, like that if you touched orange, you would get transported like to Mars. But if you touch blue and yellow, you'd go to your mom's. You could like shape shift all around and go wherever you needed to. There's a nice picture of it. Looking down from the top. So they were illuminated, and you could kind of have this touch experience with them. You can see touch, it's a big part of my work. It didn't really work, just saying. This is Spring Ball. And it's made out of bed springs. It's very interactive. You can roll it around in the space, and then it'll keep kind of reacting to you for like 10 minutes. Just sits there, and it's like, It's very sweet. Chamois bauble. Chamois becomes this kind of metaphor for family, I think, for me. It's very tactile. It's personal. It's kind of sentimental. It's that thing in my pocket. And so this is a bunch of that material on the spring, and then the rock is the thing that gives it stability so that it doesn't fall over. Yes? What is chamois? Chamois is goatskin, and it's the stuff that you wash a car with, a chamois, which is where I get them. I buy them in the car section at Fred Meyer's. My husband actually buys them for me every Christmas. One chamois will last me a whole year. I've actually over-chamoised. I told him he had to stop buying more chamois. Here's another one of those collections. How many of you have cremains of an animal around your house? That pet that you see, this is a thing. And then you have a couple pets, and then you end up with 4 pets and a dad. And then you're like, what do you do with that? So this one is called Family Stack. It's 2 dogs and a cat with my dad on top. And then this very precarious pedestal that it's on, because that, for me, is the most succinct metaphor for family. Not this kind of trees that's so sturdy and everything about it is right. No, that's not my family. I don't know about yours. That is not my family. This is Mount Pile, recent show that I had in Bend. It takes me about 2 years to make a show. I don't really make sculptures and send them out piece by piece. It's usually like a whole show. So I'm on about a 2-year cycle. So this was a show that I did. Got the show from a student. See, there's a theme here, y'all. Gotta take a sip. So Mount Pile is a mountain made out of domestic material. Carpet, sheets, drapery, blankets, Afghans. No clothes. I opted out of clothes. But just a different layering, and it's supposed to look like a mountain. It's Mount Pile. It is a pile, I think, is a better reference to family. It's like shit on top of shit on top of shit on top of shit. It's intergenerational, and it's loving, and it hugs you. So it's all those things. So again, family coming back into the work there. And then I redid the rocks because I didn't like them. I didn't like that last iteration that I did. I didn't think that it really brought them to fruition. Like they were more about being portals or sages or, I called them this piece, the illuminations. And I like the redo much better. So often the rock, wood, trees, moss, waterfall, I don't know. Things outside give me a lot of solace. I'm not a big hiker, but I do like to be out there. I love the rain, all these things. So I find that it comes through a lot in my work. So now we're at my show now. That was 2 years ago. Here we are 2 years later. And this is Moss Ball, and I just thought I'd show you a couple of pieces, Waterfall and Mother Rock. And this is Mother Rock from another view. You probably usually come in on this one view. Let's see, did I do it? Oh, boom, 25 minutes, done. Thank you. I'm happy to ask any questions, answer any questions if you want. We could head down to the gallery. Kendra has a thing to say.
Oh,
What?
I was just gonna say I could run around with this mic.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Wait, who has questions?
Uh-oh, Martha has a question.
Could you describe one of my favorite pieces of yours, which was the very interactive, I think you did it with Marty, her husband, where people would come and go through a turnstile in order to eat from a fabulous buffet, and describe what happened and how that worked.
Well, that wasn't my piece. That was my husband's. But that's okay, I'll tell you about it. It was a good piece. I don't need a mic, do I? I talk loud. Yeah, sure. Okay, here we go, guys. So Marty did a piece, and again, we collaborate often, so we have a similar sensibility. His background is in architecture, so he's an excellent builder. The two of us, I'm a welder, he's a builder, we got it good. But so every time he built a wall out of screen that was connected to a turnstile, and then they set up food, and every time that someone came into the gallery, the wall moved a little bit closer and a little bit closer, but it was really undetectable. You didn't really know, and you're like, oh, what is that thing that's going across, and why is it doing that? And eventually, it got tighter and tighter in there, and people were like, what is going on? Until they really began to see the space that was happening behind the wall, because the wall was see-through, so you could see it. So you were getting more and more mashed into a smaller space the more people came. So that was his piece. He's done some wild things. They did the chainsaw fights. They made a big bowl out of wood, and they put chain link over it, and they dropped tools with saw blades on the end of them, like a drill with a saw blade, and they turned them on. And they would do 2 at a time, and it was like, ning, 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 until one cut the other cord. And it was like, all right, that guy's out, let's bring the next one in. He's a wild child. You can see why we're together. So, thank you, Martha. Anybody else? I'll run over to you.
Nan, your process, are you starting with materials, are you starting with an idea and then looking for the materials and after that?
I do both. In particular, I usually, I have a materials library in my studio, like a whole wall of material. I have a new rule, no new materials. I pretty much think if I made only using what I have in my studio now, I would, till I die, I would have plenty of material. So I don't really need any more material. And I can usually pull something off and then imagine what to do with it or what I could do with it. I also challenged myself during COVID when nothing was happening, and I was like, well, I have to figure out what a studio practice is now. I'm highly motivated by deadlines and things like that. So give me a deadline, and I'll make one up. I'm like, yeah, next Friday I gotta have that thing done. But we didn't have deadlines. Nobody kind of knew what was going on. Everything that we did have was canceled. So then I just challenged myself to just go in and make things. No theme, no idea, new material, no material. I didn't really care. And then that show became the Sator show. And what was really awesome there was Jess Nickel, the curator, came in and started to build through line for me that I had a hard time seeing because I was like, I'm just making whatever I want. And I wasn't going with any kind of thematic through on the project. And that was kind of fun because truth is, I'm just me. It's coming out of me. So there's gonna be some connection, I think. It just took somebody else figuring out what it was. Yeah.
Is it easier to like just start on a project without a theme or with a theme, and is it like and then making something without a theme, is it easier or harder, and is it easy to come up with a theme after you make something without one, or like is it easy to like come up with a meaning, I guess, from the way people interpret it? Sorry, that was a lot.
No, I think I got you though. I like working both ways, actually. But I have to, it's like a brain switch. Okay, today we're just gonna work with the material and see where it goes. Or now I wanna work on processing my mother's death. So I'm going to go in that direction. I did have a thought that I wanted to share with you about that idea, but I lost it. But I'll come back to you. Yeah, Kendra.
So you're in a rock and roll band, and your work is very physical, and you invite people to have physical interactions with them. I'm wondering, what are you listening to in your studio? Are you dancing around these objects? Are you headbanging? Like, what is Nan doing and listening to?
Well, that's a really embarrassing question because I'm musically inept and I only like one band. And Garbage. Woo! Shirley Manson. So that's all I listen to. I got a studio assistant and she was like, wow, I mean, is this like all the time? I'm like, what? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so unfortunately, I actually tried to venture out a little bit and I pulled out some old Genesis. That's how, I mean, I got some bad taste, really. I started listening to the Grateful Dead and that screwed everything, you know? Then you just, I don't even know what happens at that point, but I'm not very musical, but Garbage is really fun. And if they ever come to town, I highly recommend those shows. They're really good. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Are you still like open to people giving you collections and still giving pieces? And the other question is, do you find meaning in doing those things, even though they're not your collections, they're other people's collections? And like I'm kind of curious how you find your meaning in other people's collections, and how that process is.
Thank you, because that is what I was going to say to that young man over there. Now you reminded me. I think that I will take those in perpetuity. I think it's really fun, actually. And when they give me a collection, they fill out a form, and it says things like, can I destroy it? How personal? Like, I like to know what I'm getting into with them, if it's like really emotional or something like that. But what I learned was that I can make art out of anything. And even if I'm not attached to it, I was like, oh, yeah, I can do it. Give me a bag of seashells. I'll do something with it. But so, yes, because I also think I'm kind of formal about what I do, too. And I make sculptures and objects, and maybe they're just about form, and they don't need to be about my dead mom, you know? So that there's a wide range of what it can be. So your question earlier, yeah, I can make art out of anything. I don't know if it's good. That's different. But I would say that probably about 40% of what I make in my studio is actually good to my standard. Other people are much more generous. They're like, yeah, that's a cool piece. I'm like, yeah, it's all right. But yeah, so yes, I can do it. And it's really fun, actually, to sort of challenge yourself in that way.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering about texture in your work.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a lot of the pieces have to do with feeling, and I'm wondering if that isn't the texture itself, or if it has to do, if you're drawn to the objects first, or making objects have the texture.
Yeah, I like texture. I think texture is sentimental. I think it, like touch. I guess texture and touch become very synonymous. So flocking, that's all about, yeah, I'm a flocker. So I gave a demo in Colin's class. It failed. That was kind of a shitty demo. I'm sorry about that, you guys. It was fun. We definitely had fun, but it was not, it was funky. But it's a teacher, but I'm 6 years out, so I'm not even a teacher anymore, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I love to make things that you can touch, actually, and it's a rule-breaking thing. I also like to break rules, so that's fun, too. I didn't know that this show was going to be so touchy-feely, but it became that way, and very participatory. But I like that stuff. Yeah, and plus, again, I got the chamois in my pocket right here, right? And I'm just sitting here going, playing with it, so yeah. Not one student has asked a question yet. Are you a student? Damn it. Okay, good. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry you did.
So I just had a question about well, first of all, I wanted to ask, I'm making a connection with the gold strip from the cigarette and that rock.
Mm.
So is that, like, when you take the strip off the cigarette pack, it cracks it open?
Oh,
right?
whoa. I hadn't done that.
I was just like, did I get that right? Well,
Sure, you just made that right.
Yeah. And then, like, with your work, there's a definite through line of, like, permanence and impermanence and the material and, sculpture, of course, is, like, traditionally, like, a very permanent kind of thing.
Not my stuff.
Yeah, but, I don't know, like, this rock is kind of monumental, and it seems like it wants to be, but how is do you feel like your current, or your current, job as a death doula obviously must be starting to come into your studio?
For sure.
So.
Everybody makes that assumption. I was like, no, it doesn't. God, you guys, no, it's not really there. But, I mean, this show in particular, and maybe this is, I don't know, are we getting close to done? Are you all done with me? Because I'll just tell you this one story, and then let's call it done, okay? I wasn't necessarily going to tell the story, but now I will. But a lot of the work that I make has source material that is not necessarily what the work is about. And in this case, the source material was based on, I was at my job one day, hi Marcy, and we lost 3 people in one day. That was really hard. And it was okay because that's what we do, and it's really pretty beautiful. And especially to help families and people to do it well, to end well. But at the same time, I'm gonna get choked up. Okay. I found out a friend of mine died, and then that changed everything. Then it was like, and my colleague that I was working with also knew this person. So it was like, oh my God, both of us kind of fell apart. At my job, they offer free grief counseling. And so I was like, maybe I'll do that. And I called this woman, and she said, well, I do somatic therapy. Are you familiar with that? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. And she said, well, I feel like we had one session online, and then she said, why don't we do 3-hour session? Because she gave 4 free sessions. And I was like, a 3-hour somatic session? Sure, sounds good to me. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but essentially, it's somatic being of the body and not the mind. So every time she would ask me a question, I was like, well, I think. She goes, stop thinking. I was like, I don't know how to stop thinking. She was like, where do you feel it in your body? I was like, I don't know, it's like right here. It's like heavy or something, And she's like what? Is it a thing? And I was like, it's like a rock, I think. I think it's a rock in my stomach. And she was like, and what is that? And I was like, my mom. And then I was like, I can't believe I just said that. And then, and so there we are, Mother Rock. And while she was talking me through this. She said, here, draw it. And I was like, oh, come on, I'm an artist, but I don't like to draw. And so she had me draw this whole scenario, and it ended up being these very visceral outdoor, the waterfall, this volcano form, the moss ball. Oh my God. So I ended up with this drawing, and as I was leaving there, it was incredible. I left there, I went in realizing that I've always felt really sad about how my mom died, and my dad got a really good death. I don't even know what those words mean, but that's how I felt about it. And this kind of freed me. It like gave me a way to honor her. And so I was like, thanks for this drawing. It's my next show. Little did I know, that's exactly, you should see the drawing. It's like exactly that show. So that is Mother Rock. And so how do we all start there? Where was the question? Yeah. Oh yeah, the cigarette. Well, that is crazy. I hadn't made the connection. Yeah, I mean, here's some practicalities. So I tried to make the rock, and I don't work with styrofoam. I needed it to be, movable, so that seemed like a good material. But I don't have the equipment, and it's really toxic. And you burn it to cut it with a big hot wire knife, and so finally I just said, I'm gonna get it made. So I took a rock to a fabricator, and I said, can you make that, 8 feet long, 4 feet by 4 feet? And he's like, yep. And he made it out of styrofoam, and I went to pick it up, and I was like, oh, that's not going through my studio door. And he goes, well, let's cut it in half. And then I was like, okay. And I thought that I'd be able to cinch it back together, and you'd never know, but that was obviously not. It would always look like there's a seam down the middle. So then I was like, let's go with the seam. And I spray painted it gold on the inside as this kind of homage to my mom. Is like she was gold on the inside, soft on the outside, gold on the inside. Didn't think about the cigarette wrapper though. I think that's a great mic drop. Thank you very much. Cool.